October 13th, 1307. Friday morning, Paris. Before dawn breaks, armed men are already moving through the streets. They carry sealed orders from King Philip IV, orders that have been written weeks ago but kept secret until this precise moment. At every Templar house, every commandery, every property owned by the Knights Templar across France, soldiers arrive simultaneously. The operation is coordinated with military precision. Ironic, considering these soldiers are arresting the greatest military order in Christendom. The knights wake to find themselves prisoners. These men, who have spent decades fighting to protect Christian pilgrims in the Holy Land, who have built an empire of faith and finance spanning Europe, who answer only to the Pope himself, are dragged from their beds and clapped in irons. The charges? Heresy, idol worship, spitting on the cross, obscene rituals, devil worship. Within hours, hundreds of Templars sit in prison cells, their white mantles with red crosses stripped away. Outside, the city is waking up to shocking news. The holy warriors of God are actually servants of Satan. But here's what makes this story truly dark. Almost none of it is true. If you enjoy learning about the hidden truths of history, consider hitting that like button and subscribing for more stories like this, and drop a comment to tell me where you're listening from. I love knowing that we're exploring these dark secrets of history together. And now, let's continue. What happened to the Knights Templar wasn't just a historical footnote, it's a masterclass in how power, greed, and religious authority can combine to destroy even the most untouchable institutions. It's about how fabricated accusations can become accepted truth through torture and political pressure. And it's about how an organization that spent 2 centuries defending Christianity was ultimately consumed by the very structures it served. To understand how this happened, we need to go back. Jerusalem, 1119. The Holy Land has been in Christian hands for 2 decades, one through the brutality of the First Crusade. But controlling territory and making it safe are 2 different things. Christian pilgrims travelling from the coast to Jerusalem face constant danger from bandits, raiders, and remnant Muslim forces. The roads are deadly. Bodies pile up along the pilgrimage routes. A French knight named Hugues de Payance has an idea. He gathers 8 fellow knights and makes a proposal to King Baldwin II of Jerusalem. They will form a brotherhood dedicated to protecting pilgrims. They'll take monastic vows, poverty, chastity, obedience, but instead of retreating to a monastery, they'll fight. Warrior monks, the first of their kind. Baldwin gives them headquarters in the Al-Aqsa Mosque, built on the ruins of Solomon's Temple. The name follows naturally, the poor fellow soldiers of Christ and of the Temple of Solomon, the Knights Templar. It's a radical concept. For centuries, the Church has taught that violence is sinful, that warriors who kill are committing murder. But these knights are offering to kill for the faith, to sanctify warfare itself. In 1129, at the Council of Troy, the Church makes it official. St. Bernard of Clairvaux himself writes their rule, legitimizing holy violence. He calls them the new knighthood, men who can kill without sin because they kill in God's name. The recruitment floodgates open. Nobles across Europe send their sons. Donations pour in. Land, money, weapons. Within decades, the Templars aren't just a military order. They're a multinational organization with properties across Europe and the Middle East. They develop sophisticated financial systems, effectively inventing international banking. Need to transfer money from Paris to Jerusalem? The Templars can do it. Need a loan for a crusade? The Templars can arrange it. They become rich, phenomenally rich, and they become powerful in ways that transcend normal feudal hierarchies. They answer only to the Pope. They're exempt from local laws, from taxes, from the authority of kings. They wear white mantles with red crosses, and everyone, from peasants to princes, knows what that means. These men are untouchable. For nearly 2 centuries, this works. The Templars fight in every major campaign in the Holy Land. They garrison castles, lead charges, die in massive numbers maintaining the Crusader states. Their courage becomes legendary. Their discipline is unmatched. When they carry their black and white banner, the Boschen, into battle, it never retreats. If it falls, every Templar present is expected to die defending it. But then the situation changes. Acre falls in 1291. It's the last Crusader stronghold in the Holy Land. After 200 years, Christianity has been driven completely from Jerusalem. The age of Crusades is effectively over, and suddenly nobody knows what to do with the Knights Templar. Paris, early 1300s. King Philip IV sits on the French throne with a problem. He's broke. Philip is called Philip the Fair, but there's nothing fair about his financial methods. He's already expelled the Jews and seized their property. He's already debased the currency so many times that riots have erupted. He's already tried to tax the clergy, sparking a confrontation with Pope Boniface VIII. When the Pope threatens to excommunicate him, Philip has the elderly pontiff kidnapped and beaten. Boniface dies a few weeks later, possibly from the trauma. This is the kind of king Philip is. He doesn't accept limits. He doesn't accept that anyone, even the Pope, can tell him what to do in his own kingdom. And there, across France, sit the Templars with their hundreds of properties, their wealth, their financial networks, their independence. They have thousands of acres of prime land. They have gold in their treasuries. They collect rents, tithes, donations, and Philip can't touch any of it because they answer to Rome, not Paris. It eats at him. These warrior monks sitting on piles of wealth, no longer fighting crusades. What's their purpose now? Why do they need all that money? Why do they need all that independence? Philip isn't the only one asking these questions. Across Europe, there's growing resentment toward the military orders. The Templars are arrogant, people say. They're secretive. Their initiation ceremonies are conducted in private. They don't let outsiders into their chapter meetings. What are they hiding? Rumours start to circulate, strange rumours. Devil worship, idol worship, obscene rituals. The rumours have been around for years, whispered in taverns and markets, but they're just rumours. Nobody has proof. Nobody takes them seriously, until Philip decides he needs proof. The planning takes months. Philip moves carefully. He can't just seize Templar property. Technically, they're under papal protection. He needs a better justification. He needs the church itself to condemn them. Luckily for Philip, he has leverage. After Boniface VIII's death, Philip effectively controlled the selection of the next pope. In 1305, his man, Bertrand de Gaulle, becomes Pope Clement VI. Clement isn't based in Rome. He's in Avignon, on France's border, where Philip can keep a very close eye on him. Clement is weak. Everyone knows it. He owes his papal crown to Philip, and Philip never lets him forget it. In 1307, Philip sends agents across France gathering evidence against the Templars. The evidence comes primarily from a few expelled Templars, men with grudges, men who failed to make it in the order, men willing to say anything. They testify to horrifying practices. New initiates are forced to deny Christ, to spit on the cross, to worship an idol called Baphomet, to engage in homosexual acts. The accusations are lurid, specific, designed to shock. Are they true? It doesn't matter. Philip doesn't need truth. He needs justification. On September 14th, 1307, Philip sends sealed orders to his officials across France. The orders are clear. At dawn on October 13th, a Friday, arrest every Templar in France simultaneously. Give them no warning, allow no escapes. October 13th arrives. The arrests happen exactly as planned. The biggest single-day arrest operation in medieval history. Hundreds of Templars are seized before they realise what's happening. Their Grand Master, Jacques de Molay, is arrested while attending a funeral. He'd been serving as a pallbearer for the king's sister-in-law. The symbolism is almost too perfect. The Templars bury the royal family while the king buries the Templars. Within hours, Paris is plastered with proclamations explaining the arrests. Philip is protecting the faith, he claims. He's rooting out heresy. He's doing God's work. The accusations are read in churches across France. Public opinion begins to shift. If the king says they're devil worshippers, maybe they are. That secrecy always seems suspicious. Those private ceremonies. What were they hiding? Pope Clement is caught off guard. He's furious, not necessarily because the arrests are unjust, but because Philip acted without papal authority. The Templars are under church jurisdiction, not royal. This is a massive overstep. But Philip doesn't care about jurisdictional niceties. He has the Templars, he has the momentum, and he has something else. Torturers. Medieval torture is systematic, scientific almost in its cruelty. It's not about random violence. It's about applying precise amounts of pain to break a person's will while keeping them conscious enough to confess. The French Inquisition has refined this to an art. They know exactly how long to leave a man on the rack before his joints dislocate. They know how to apply fire to bare feet so the pain is excruciating but not immediately lethal. They know how to suspend a man by his wrists tied behind his back until his shoulders pop out of their sockets. And they know that everyone breaks eventually. Everyone! The Templars start confessing within weeks. Grandmaster Jacques de Molay himself confesses to denying Christ during his initiation. Other leaders confess to worshipping idols, to obscene ceremonies. Once the leadership confesses, junior members follow. The confessions are recorded by notaries, signed or marked by the prisoners, copied and distributed as evidence. See? The accusations are true, they admitted it themselves. But here's what the official records don't include. The sessions are conducted in torture chambers. The confessions come after days or weeks of torment. Some prisoners are missing fingernails, some have feet blackened by fire, some can barely speak through broken teeth, and the confessions themselves are suspiciously similar. Different prisoners, different locations, but they describe the same ritual: spitting on the cross, denying Christ, obscene kisses. It's as if they've all read from the same script. They have. The torturers are asking leading questions, prompting specific answers. A prisoner doesn't need to invent accusations. He just needs to agree with what his torturers are already telling him. Nod your head, confirm the charges, and the pain stops. At least temporarily. Some resist longer than others. Some refuse to confess even under extreme duress. These men face escalating torture until they die from it, or finally break. The Inquisition is patient. They have all the time they need. Outside the prison walls, Pope Clement tries to intervene. He sends letters demanding that Philip hand over the prisoners to church custody. Philip ignores him. Clement threatens to invalidate the confessions obtained under torture. Philip points out that many Templars have now voluntarily reaffirmed their confessions. What the records don't mention is that these reaffirmations came after prisoners were shown the torture instruments again and reminded what would happen if they recanted. It's a masterpiece of legal fiction. On paper, everything looks legitimate. Confessions given, procedures followed, evidence documented, but the entire process is built on agony. By 1309, Philip has forced Clement's hand. The Pope officially launches an investigation into the Templars, not just in France, across all of Christendom. Philip wants the entire order destroyed, not just the French branch. The investigations proceed differently in different kingdoms. In England, King Edward II is sceptical of the charges. English Templars are questioned but not tortured. They deny everything. Without torture, the confessions don't come. In Germany and Spain, similar patterns emerge. Most Templars outside France deny the charges completely. This creates a problem for Philip's narrative. If the Templars are devil worshippers engaged in systematic heresy, why are only the French ones confessing? Philip's solution: pressure Clement to authorize torture everywhere. Eventually, Clement caves. He issues a papal bull authorizing torture according to ecclesiastical law. The confessions begin spreading beyond France, but they're never as uniform, never as convincing as Philip needs them to be. The case is weaker outside France. Kings who don't want to seize Templar property aren't as enthusiastic about finding them guilty. Meanwhile, the trials in France continue. The Templars are charged individually and collectively. The charges are expansive: heresy, idol worship, sodomy, denying Christ, desecrating the cross. The evidence is their coerced confessions plus testimony from expelled members and some completely fabricated accusations. Some Templars, broken by torture and believing confession might save them, play along. Others, having initially confessed, find their courage again and recant. This is incredibly dangerous. Under Inquisition rules, a relapsed heretic, someone who confesses, recants, then reconfesses or refuses to reconfess, can be handed over to secular authorities for execution. In May 1310, 54 Templars who have recanted their confessions are brought before a tribunal. They're declared relapsed heretics. The sentence is immediate. They're burned at the stake. 54 men, burned alive in a field outside Paris. Their crime, taking back their tortured confessions. Their punishment, death by fire. Imagine being one of the remaining Templars in prison hearing about this. You confessed under torture. You were considering recanting because the confession was false. And now you know. Recant and you burn. The message is clear. Say what you're told to say, or die screaming. Jacques de Molay has been in prison for 7 years. He's in his 70s now, old for medieval times. He's been tortured, he's confessed, he's watched his order destroyed across Europe. The trials have dragged on endlessly while kingdoms negotiate over Templar property, and the Pope tries to navigate between Philip's demands and his own authority. By 1312, Clement has had enough of the political nightmare. He doesn't formally condemn the Templars for heresy. The evidence is too compromised, too inconsistent. Instead, he dissolves the order by papal decree. Not guilty, but not innocent either. Just over. Most Templar property is transferred to the Knights Hospitaller, though Philip manages to seize much of the French holdings for administrative costs. The individual Templars are sentenced based on their cooperation. Those who confessed and didn't recant receive penance and small pensions. Those who maintained innocence or recanted remain imprisoned. March 18th, 1314. 7 years after that Friday morning arrest, the endgame arrives. A scaffold is erected on the Ile de Javieux in the Seine, between Paris and the royal palace. 4 Templar leaders are brought out: Jacques de Molay, Geoffrey de Charnay, Hugues de Perrot, and Geoffrey de Gonneville. The sentence is read. Because they've confessed and cooperated, they'll receive light punishment, life imprisonment instead of death. All they need to do is publicly confirm their confessions one final time. De Perrot and de Gonneville, broken men now, do as they're told. They confirm, they submit, they accept imprisonment. Jacques de Molay and Geoffrey de Charnay do something else. De Molay steps forward. He's old, exhausted, beaten down by 7 years of hell, but he finds his voice, and he uses it. He recants everything. The confessions were lies, he declares, extracted through torture. The Templars are innocent. The Order is innocent. He and his brothers are guilty of nothing except serving God faithfully for 2 centuries. The crowd is stunned. Geoffrey de Charnay joins him. 2 of the highest Templars, publicly recanting, calling the entire proceeding a fraud. Philip moves immediately. By law, this makes them relapsed heretics, a capital offence. There's no time for appeals, no opportunity for them to recant their recantation. Philip wants them dead before anyone can intervene. That evening, as the sun sets over Paris, a fire is built on the Ile de Javieux. Jacques de Molay and Geoffrey de Charnay are tied to stakes. The execution method for heretics is specific: burning alive. Not strangled first, not beheaded then burned. Alive. The fire is lit. Medieval burning is horrific. It's designed to be. The flames take time to kill. At first the heat is unbearable but not immediately lethal. The smoke chokes you but doesn't kill you fast enough. Your skin blistering, your lungs searing with each breath. The pain is impossible to comprehend. According to several chroniclers, Jacques de Molay maintains composure. He doesn't scream, doesn't beg. As the flames rise, he speaks. He proclaims his innocence one final time. He summons both Philip and Clement to meet him before God's judgment within the year. It becomes legend, the Grand Master's curse, and eerily, both men do die within the year. Clement dies of illness a month later. Philip dies from a stroke while hunting in November. Medieval people see divine justice in this, God's judgment on the men who destroyed his holy order. But that's cold comfort to the men burning alive in the Paris twilight. The Knights Templar cease to exist. 200 years of history erased in 7 years of political maneuvering, torture and murder. Their properties are absorbed by other orders or seized by crowns. Their records are scattered or destroyed. Their legacy becomes contaminated by the accusations, even though most historians now agree the charges were fabricated. Some Templars escape, some flee to Scotland or Portugal or other kingdoms where the persecution is less intense. Some join other military orders. Many simply disappear into obscurity, abandoning the white mantle that once guaranteed their safety, but now marks them for arrest. The broader impact is significant. Philip has demonstrated that even the most powerful religious institution can be destroyed if you have enough political power, enough torture, and enough propaganda. He's shown that sacred vows, papal protection, and centuries of service mean nothing against royal authority backed by violence. Other monarchs take note. The independence of religious orders becomes less absolute. The boundary between church and crown shifts. Kings become bolder about asserting authority over institutions that claim to answer only to God. And the Templars themselves become myth. Over centuries, legends accumulate. They hid the Holy Grail, they discovered the Ark of the Covenant, they possessed secret knowledge that the Church feared, they escaped to America before Columbus, they founded the Freemasons, they still exist in secret. None of this is historically supported, but the legends proliferate because people want the story to mean something more than it actually does. We want there to be secret knowledge, hidden treasure, continued resistance. We want the good guys to have won somehow, even in defeat. The truth is simpler and darker. The Knights Templar were destroyed because they were rich and vulnerable. They were killed because a king needed money and had the power to take it. They were tortured because torture produces confessions, and confessions produce legitimacy. They were burned because dead men tell no tales, and leaving them alive would mean admitting the entire proceeding was a sham. The destruction of the Templars reveals something uncomfortable about how institutions work, even sacred ones. The Templars weren't destroyed because they failed to serve God. They were destroyed because they served him too well and became too successful. Their wealth, their independence, their direct relationship with the Pope, these were supposed to be protections. Instead, they became vulnerabilities. The Church that they protected, that they died for in countless battles across the Holy Land, stood by while they were tortured and executed. Pope Clement V had the authority to stop it. He was, theoretically, the most powerful religious figure in Christendom. But political pressure from Philip, fear of a schism, and his own weakness meant he chose the institution's stability over the lives of men who devoted everything to serving it. This is the pattern throughout history. Institutions protect themselves first. The men who serve them are expendable when they become inconvenient. The Templars also show us how quickly narrative can overwrite truth. Within a generation, many people accepted that the Templars were probably guilty of something. The confessions seemed convincing, the trials looked legitimate, the procedures were followed. That the entire process was built on torture became a footnote, an inconvenient complication to an otherwise neat story. We see this pattern repeat: manufacture evidence through coercion, create legal justification through procedural compliance, and wait for memory to fade. Eventually, the accusation becomes the accepted history. It takes scholars centuries to untangle the truth from the official records. And there's something especially dark about the religious dimension. These men weren't just warriors, they were monks. They'd taken sacred vows. They'd subordinated their entire lives to serving God through military service. They genuinely believed they were doing holy work, and they were burned alive as heretics by the church they'd sworn to defend. The cognitive dissonance of that moment, standing at the stake, flames rising, having devoted your entire life to protecting Christianity, now being executed as an enemy of Christ, is almost incomprehensible. Some Templars must have died genuinely confused about how service to God had led them to this. But perhaps the darkest element is the sheer efficiency of it. Philip didn't need years to destroy the Templars. 7 years from arrest to execution. A 200-year-old institution eliminated in less time than it takes to complete a college education. That's how quickly power, applied ruthlessly and without moral restraint, can erase even the most established order. The Knights Templar fought Muslims, built castles, protected pilgrims, and developed banking systems that transformed medieval Europe. They survived countless battles, sieges, and political upheavals. They endured for 2 centuries through crusades, schisms, and wars. What finally killed them wasn't military defeat or religious transformation. It was a bankrupt king with torture chambers and a weak pope who valued political survival over justice. In the end, the men who'd fought for Christendom died because political power beats sacred authority every time, and torture can make anyone confess to anything. That's the lesson. That's what we're supposed to remember when we look back at those fires burning in Paris on that March evening in 1314. Not the legends, not the mysteries, not the conspiracy theories, just the simple, brutal truth. No one is so holy that they can't be destroyed when power decides they need to be. And if it could happen to the Knights Templar, men who spent centuries literally fighting for God, it can happen to anyone.